Hi Millwall fans, Ben Thompson here. Chat with Chaps in partnership with Cancer Research are hosting a collection day at the Den. It's on the 12th of April. There's a chance to get hold of signed shirts, pin badges and many more things. So show your appreciation and support and get down there like the true Millwall family does. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, and congratulations on your goal yesterday. Big things for Bromley next season with Mr. Thompson in the side. But if you hadn't already heard, that was Ben Thompson just plugging again that next Saturday, a game that it looks like we'll still have something to play for, doesn't it? At home to Middlesbrough, in partnership with Cancer Research, we will be hosting a collection day. Badges for sale and those T-shirts that you can get your hands on. The link will be in the description, but they are selling really well. And this is not me plugging to try and like make people act quicker. Genuinely, they are selling really, really well. So if you want to get your hands on one, please go on the link and get yourselves a signed Millwall T-shirt with all of the profit going to Cancer Research. You can. Just another thank you to the folks over at No One Likes Us Clothing who've produced those T-shirts at cost. That means that more money going to the charity. So lots to talk about, of course, and the fact that we still potentially have a chance, right? I was talking to a few people before the game. It was like, is it the hope that kills you, or is it the fact that the hope is what keeps you going, and then it's just Millwall that kill you? So that's just kind of how it is. But look, let's talk about the game yesterday, as we always do. Home to Portsmouth, two, in my opinion, proper clubs, proper teams, and a good opportunity for us to take 6 points against the side. I don't know if we've beaten many teams twice this season, but in the league, that is. So yeah, good opportunity for us to do that. And it always felt, didn't it, with this 3-game week we've got, 3 really tricky games, 2 at home, 1 away, obviously on Tuesday. It felt that for us to be in with a shot, minimum of 6, possibly 7 points required, right? But the lineup was then in goal, Lucas Jensen. Right back was Tristan Kramer. Centre halves, Japheth Tanganga, Jake Cooper. Joe Bryan on the left. In the midfield, George Saville coming in. He was partnering Casper Denor. And then we went 4-4-2 again, didn't we? George Honeyman on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, Aaron Connolly, which is proving to be, obviously, with some of the injured players, you've either got Aaron Connolly and Idemo Maku, who obviously have their strengths, but I think from my perspective, I don't really know if I want either of them starting at the moment. And we'll talk about Aaron Connolly's performance and, of course, Idemo Maku's cameo a little bit later. And then up top, Mihailo Ivanovic and Josh Coburn. A bench, obviously, without Negley, without Riz Bangura-Williams, without Femi Aziz, but Langstaff, Kundal and Imaku on the bench. For Portsmouth, they've got their injuries as well, 100%. And any Portsmouth fans listening to this, I'm sure you will agree that, of course, that plays a role for you. It plays a role for us. But I think noticeable players would be, of course, Mr. Murphy down that left-hand side. 17 goal contributions this season in a real standout season for him at this level. And then I've always liked Colby Bishop at the top of the field. Good player. And I think he certainly gave our defenders a handful. So that was the side. And let's be honest, the first half was pretty poor, wasn't it? I'm looking through my notes here and there's not many. I'm clutching at straws. But sort of first 10, 15 minutes, we started with enough intensity, but we didn't really create any opportunities. I think there was a set-piece corner, well-worked routine. Honeyman floated it to the sort of edge where Saville volleyed. It was wide, and there was a weak header from Tanganga on around the 14th minute mark. But one of the things I've noticed down here, and obviously this does go on to have an impact on the game, is for me, I just felt Portsmouth at the back are pretty suspect, and I also felt that they're not the biggest side at the back. I might as well just get this out of the way, but my take on Portsmouth is their defence is shocking, and it's a League One defence at best, based on the players that they had available yesterday. Further up the pitch, I think they're a decent Championship side. They're probably a mid-table Championship side, but I think they've got to sort their defence out. And obviously, we were to go on and punish them again with the physical presence of Josh Coburn and Mihailo Ivanovic, who I thought was their best time in a 2 yesterday. They played slightly different roles. Ivanovic at times dropping a little bit deeper, Coburn being the one to kind of start the press and winning a lot of headers as well. So that was that. The couple of bits I've noted down here on 22 minutes, I've written down that, Honeyman, he does some really good play, wins the corner, puts a good corner in, then he loses the ball and chases 60 yards to win it back. That just, I felt, epitomises George Honeyman, who I'll say now I thought was excellent yesterday. I think you've got to give man of the match to Mihailo, because overall I thought he had a decent game, but at the end of the day, he scored 2 goals. But I thought George Honeyman was fantastic yesterday. And that is what he brings. He's the one that sets the tone with the press. I prefer him probably on the right-hand side, because he's not got a bad cross on him, to be fair. And his corners yesterday were a lot better than what we've seen for some time. So, yeah, I thought Honeyman was really good yesterday. I've noted down here, Joe Bryan a couple of times on 23. He played this ball to Connolly. Honestly, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the full highlights or the full game is on Millwall TV. Watch it back. This ball from Joe Bryan is outstanding. And then again on 35, he wins the ball on 35, wins it back, super ball to Denor, feeds Ivanovic, who blocked for a corner. But Joe Bryan, and on 45 minutes, he flicked it around the corner for Connolly. He does some things that are quite easily Premier League quality. He really, really does. However, their one chance comes from, I don't know if I'd put it as an error, but it was a let-off for sure. The ball comes across. Joe Bryan seems to be in the middle of 2 men. He sort of flings a leg at it to try and clear it, which is all he can do. But unfortunately, goes straight to Colby Bishop, who probably, if he'd hit it sweeter, would have been a little bit of a trouble. But it's a decent enough save from Lucas Jensen, gets down and makes the save. But for all of our pressure and for all of our possession in that first half, we didn't really create much. And this is one of the things that I've got a few talking points at the end. And this is one of the things that I want to talk about, which is around the lack of patterns of play. And we've won the game yesterday, yes, but it's won by, a set piece and then a second phase from a set piece. We're still not creating enough chances, but I'll come on to talk a bit about that at the moment. Obviously, another sour part of the first half for us was Javid Tanganga coming off with what's now rumoured, it's come out to potentially be a broken bone in his wrist. So that possibly could take him out for the rest of the season, couldn't it? Bigger question is that the last we'll see of him? Obviously, I hope not. But we got to see Tristan Kramer, who looked fairly good in his natural position of centre-back. But, that's a disappointing one. And again, going back to real teams, real clubs, real football, Portsmouth singing Let Him Die to Tanganga, and then they were singing the Mateta A&E song to Tanganga. Again, all in the spirit in which it is intended, which is banter. And obviously no one at any ground wants anyone to die on a football pitch. But I thought that was quite amusing. I'll talk about their manager in a minute, though. I do want to talk about how he certainly didn't take certain comments in the spirit that I'm sure they were intended. So that was the first half. I think there was a couple of scrambles from set pieces, but we didn't really create anything. And the referee contributed to this. And I want to say now, off the bat, that I thought the referee was terrible for both sides. This is not me saying, he robbed us. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I just thought the referee was very whistle happy. He didn't really let the game go on. He was so by the book, right? You could tell, everything he was doing. He stopped the game to talk to Mousinho. He had to collect all the bottles and things that were potentially, thrown on the pitch or whatever. And he blew up at every moment, even when the team had possession. I just thought he was a really weak referee. So that's half time. And it was dross, when it was a really boring watch. And the second half, you're like, okay, well, we've got to go for the win. Certain results have started to go for us, right? Coventry losing, etc. So I got to go for it in the second half. And I felt in the second half, Alex Neil's come out and said we went direct the whole game. I think we did, but I think the second half we went even more direct. So much so, we didn't even complete 100 passes in the second half. So that's how direct we went. But look, obviously it would go on to work. I think the start of the second half was similar to the first. possession from us. We're not really creating anything. But on 57 was where we get the corner. So some really good link-up play between Honeyman, Ivanovic and Coburn led to the latter winning us a corner. And then the corner in from Honeyman here is outstanding. Mihailo Ivanovic, no one marking him, really poor from their perspective. We'll take it. It's a scruffy goal. It's not the cleanest of connections from Mihailo, but he does superbly well, nudges it into the corner. Schmidt doesn't move. And, we go 1-0 up. And at that point, it's 57 minutes. And you're thinking, one isn't enough. They have an opportunity on 65. No, apologies. On 65 was... No, sorry. I'm reading my notes here. Apologies. 65, they have an opportunity and you're like, it's coming. They then make their treble substitution on 68. We have a half chance from Coburn. This is when Mousinho complains about the fans. Obviously, I'm not there down like that, but it sounds like he complained about some discriminatory comments from behind the dugout, which, look, come on. I'm sure it happens at every ground, every single game, every single week. But yeah, I felt that we needed a second goal, in all honesty. And with the substitutions they made, I felt it gave him a little bit of a different dynamic. And they do get their goal. And it's unfortunate. I think Portsmouth do well in the build-up prior to it, and I don't think we are aggressive enough. And that is something that I want to see a little bit more of. Under Neil Harris, we take a 1-0 lead, you ain't breaking us down. We're not as good at that under Alex Neil, and that's a sacrifice you make for having a bit more of the ball and playing in a different way, and that's fine. But I want to see a little bit more still. In fairness, there was bodies flying everywhere. Denora and Cooper threw their bodies for one of the blocks. But this is just a catalogue of where potentially players could do better. The original ball that comes across, Kramer, bit of a weak header. It goes to, is it Ogilvy? Ogilvy? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Conor Ogilvy goes to him. He pulls the ball back across. And at that point, the lad that had come on, was it 27? He gets to the ball ahead of Joe Bryan. I think, again, this is where Joe Bryan, I just want his positioning to be a little bit better, because he shouldn't be, if you look, the ball goes right across the box and their player's the first one to get it. He then drills it back across goal. We try and block it. Body's being thrown. It breaks to Dazelle and he rolls it into the net. Jensen's off of his line. It goes through the legs of Saville. There's just so many different things here that had they, it's always buts and maybes, but they score. And, at that point, the game sort of springs into life. Their fans wake up. I think both sets of fans were pretty quiet throughout the game. I'm surprised we only gave them the allocation we did, because they sold out, right? But they didn't really seem to have that many fans there, I didn't think. I'm sure they could have sold more. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think there was about 6 games in London yesterday. Maybe that's got something to do with it. Don't know. But yes, obviously they scored, Dazelle, and the game sort of springs into life. There's a bit more of an atmosphere and a bit more bite to it. We then make the changes. Now, I don't know what changes, but some of these changes were about to come on before they scored. So he makes treble change here. He brings on Imaku, Langstaff, and Billy Mitchell for George Saville, Josh Coburn, and Aaron Connolly. And I think all 3 of these had an impact in the game for various different reasons. So we win a corner, right? And I'm pretty sure that both Langstaff and Imaku, who it is that wins the corner, again, that's what I'm saying about having a contribution to the goal. I think it's Langstaff holds the ball off to Imaku. I think it is. But anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, I think all 3 of them had an impact. Imaku wins the corner. Again, decent delivery. The ball then comes out. And what I love here is Billy Mitchell and Casper De Noor fighting. And I think Billy Mitchell goes in low with his head. He's brave there. And I really like that. Then the ball here from Casper De Noor is outstanding. It is a ball that is like a striker's dream. Ivanovic gets up well. He's in between 2 defenders. Marlon Packard come on at this time. And it's a brilliant header. If I said the first one was scrappy, this was a brilliant header. Right in the bottom corner. The stadium erupts. 87 minutes. And it was just, I don't know, it was such a good feeling yesterday. It really, really, really was. It was such a, really pleased for Ivanovic. You know, he's now got 8 league goals this season, which is just outstanding for him, I think. And really things are starting to come together. And yes, it was a scrappy win, right? And yes, it was 2 set-piece goals again. And I'll talk about what I think we need to do in the summer. But Portsmouth went to Sheffield United and they lost narrowly, but they played them off the park at times. Obviously, we've got Sheffield United next. Their away form has got a lot better. And obviously at home, you know, they're a much, much, much better side. The only thing is, with Portsmouth, I expected, based on the way they play, I expected them to come at us a little bit more, and I don't really think they did. But take nothing away. Super ball, great for Billy Mitchell to win the ball back. Referee didn't blow up. I thought he might do because it was 2 players against 1. Great ball in from Denor, who I thought, again, was real solid game. And I think, to be honest, Casper Denor, Japhet Tanganga, in terms of player of the season, I don't think you could argue if either of them won it. And then a great header from the big Serbian. Couple of things here just to note after, obviously, you know, if anyone was going to go and get the 3rd goal, it was us. So there's 2 moments that Langstaff was involved in. One where he broke away from Marlon Pack. It was never a foul. This is what I'm saying about the ref, and he booked Marlon Pack. But again, good for Langstaff to do the running, get into the channel and to make that run and win that free kick. And then Imaku plays a super ball through the line for Langstaff, who... And this is where I'm going to sort of speak out both sides of my mouth with Langstaff. So that he should be putting that away. It's a decent-ish save, but Langstaff on his weaker foot, the angle was tight. I'm trying to sort of defend him a little bit here, but he should do better. Let's be honest. Langstaff should do that. He could round the keeper. He could lob him. The keeper was off his line. I don't know. It's all split-second decision-making, isn't it? But having said that, I don't think we have another forward that makes that run, right? And what I like what Langstaff does, and whether this means next season it's Langstaff or whether it means we need to sign someone that does this role, it's really exciting to have a striker that plays on the shoulder and makes those runs in behind, especially when teams play high lines and things like that. I really like that. And I think Langstaff, his link-up plays got better. He's obviously been out of the side for a long time. But he does he does make those runs. And I don't know, is there something in there or not? I don't know. You tell me. And let me know in the comments if you think Langstaff is whether he should stay here for another year or we should look to move him on in the summer. Also, this is your call to action if you haven't already. So please like this video. All helps with the algorithm. As you know, we're doing everything this season for Cancer Research UK. So please give it a like, share. And if you haven't, of course, and if you're new to the channel or you're a Portsmouth fan, please give us a subscribe. Also, just whilst we are going slightly off topic, I want to thank Joe massively for covering for me again when I was away. That's the last game I missed this season, promise. So, yeah, I want to thank Joe big time for that, as always. A great job, much appreciated. We win the game, 2-1, free light show at the end. You know, what more could you want, right? And we now find ourselves in a position where it's still a stretch. I think we've got to win all but one game, to be honest. So it is a bit of a stretch. But, then you start to think Sheffield United, they're going to be a bit shaky after not winning, after losing against Oxford at the weekend. They're starting to feel the pressure. Burnley, in theory, last game of the season, they could already be up. Zian Fleming, do us a favour. I don't know. You start to just sort of think about all these different things that could happen. But I don't know. But it's just nice to have something to play for, isn't it? And for the right reasons. So that's great. It really is. A few talking points now then. So I think, first of all, I want to talk about George Honeyman. To keep or not to keep. So he's out of contract at the end of the season. And let me know in the comments, would you keep George Honeyman, would you not? I personally would. Now, that is predicated on the fact that he would be okay with not playing a significant portion of games. But what I think he does is he does the things that he does well. Now, that might sound stupid, but my point here is, if George Honeyman is very good at something, He's bloody good at it. So he's pressing. He's knowing where to be in shape. I think his corner delivery was pretty good. I thought he put some good balls in. I thought his link-up play yesterday was really good. He can cover a number of different positions. He's clearly very well liked in the dressing room, a good leader. And for me personally, I think he's worth another year deal. Again, assuming he's happy being a bit part player and he doesn't want to move back up north yet. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that I want him in the 10 every week, but I think he is, for the right game, vital to the way we play. That's just my opinion. I thought we kept Mr. Murphy very quiet yesterday. And for a player who's in the form that he has been in, and a lot of that was shown in the crosses. So Phil Clark tweeted on Twitter, there was an actual stat. I can't recall the stat, but it was basically, we'd obviously done our homework because versus the normal amount of crosses they put into the box, and when we played them before, when we beat them, it was like 20% of the amount of crosses before. So again, I think that just shows you that Crammer and Leonard, when he came on, did a really good job on a very informed winger. And again, just to mention to Leonard, because he's come back in as if he had never been out. So massive credit to him. So another positive there. The other positive is Mihailo Ivanovic, right? What a talent. 20 years old. There's things he needs to work on. 100%, of course there is. But 8 goals, and he's won 17 points from his goals. What do you have? 2 chances yesterday? Took them both. What a player we could have on our hands here. And I don't want to get too overexcited, because I think there's certainly things that he needs to do and develop. And I do want us to go out and buy a third striker in the summer, whoever that might be, right? And I'd keep Coburn as well, by the way. I know that he's certainly dividing the fan base, but I think Coburn does a lot that people don't realise. That's my opinion. But obviously everyone's got one, and that's fine. But yes, so I think another positive there is Ivanovic. And then kind of 2 sort of talking points, food for thought, is the first one is, under Alex Neil, I see an identity. I do. I see a structure, and I see, to a point, a style of play. What I don't see is patterns of play, and that concerns me. We're winning games without creating bundles of chances, and most of our goals are still coming from set pieces or second phases of set pieces. That is a concern for me. And yes, we've got a lot of our creative players not available. And yes, I think the hope was that Luke Cundle would be that number 10 that was doing that role. It hasn't worked yet for Cundle. I'm sure with a full pre-season working with Alex Neil, we'll get a different player next season. But at the minute, it hasn't really worked out. So I think in the summer, I'd be looking to add 2 or 3 players that affect the first team, that will then enable us, get them in early and start working on these patterns of play. Because that's the thing that, it's not a criticism, but it's the thing I haven't yet seen, and I want to see more of that. And then the last talking point is, when I look at the January transfer window, yes, Negley's injured, right? So you've got to bear that in mind. And he wasn't injured when we signed him. But it appears that Treble B and Lovelace were injured when we signed him. So then outside of Crammer, could you argue that any of them had an impact? That's my only sort of talking point around the January signings. Obviously, Crammer looks to be a superb addition. Connolly, I'm not sure. He held on to the ball too much at times yesterday, and he still don't look fit to me. You can tell there is some player in there. You can tell that, but I'm not sure about whether he'll be in next season. So when you look at it like that, and in terms of the impact from the players, obviously we just talked about Cundle. Obviously we were really excited by the January transfer window. And again, look, in the summer, another pre-season, who knows? But I'm calling what I see now. And when you look at the starting 11 and you look at the players that are having the impact, it's not necessarily the January transfer window signings. So there we go. Right, let's roll on Tuesday. There will be an opposition view that Stephen and Angelo have filmed that will come out tomorrow. It will come out Monday. So that you've got that to look forward to. And then, of course, next Saturday. Guys, I am so excited for the 12th. It really does promise to be such a good day and a great occasion. Of course, always the Millwall family come out in their numbers, and I know it'll be a brilliant day. So we'll have 2 stalls. one by the blue bus and one round the other side by sort of the ticket office, and there'll be bucket collectors and card machines on all of the gates. So any donation over £5 gets a badge. And then, of course, there's those T-shirts that you can get your hands on. If there's any left, they're selling so well. I'm surprised. And again, a massive thank you for those that have already bought one, and a massive thank you to obviously the people involved getting them signed. It's such appreciated. It really is so appreciated. I think I'm going to leave it there. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. It's nice and sunny today, and I'll catch you soon. As always, thank you for listening, and bye for now.
Hi, it's Steve Morrison here, and you're listening to Chat with Chaps, chatting Millwall, come rain or shine.